Welcome back, everyone, to Caffeinated Combat. I am your co-host, Matt, joined with our other co-host, Kyle, and today we are going to talk about some UFC news that has come into light recently. One of those news being Conor McGregor fighting Kamaru Usman for the 170-pound title. And
Maybe.
it's
That's
possible.
a big maybe, kid.
The other news coming at us, well, I should. This is much more definite news. The 125-pound belt and 135-pound belt, both of those are now vacated because Henry Cejudo has officially left the UFC game. He's not faking this time, I guess. Very interesting stuff.
The reign has ended for the King of Cringe.
I'm gonna miss him. I'm
I
gonna miss
am
him a lot.
too. It's kind of sad. It really seems like he is serious about it. But hey, good for him. You know,
I can't blame him.
he wants to start a family. He's done his part. He has been one of the greats. Good for Henry, getting out on top. You know, getting out while the going's good. Never really took a huge amount of damage. Wish him all the best.
Yeah, will he be able to start a family with his personality, though? That is the question. We're
He
gonna
has
see
he
that.
has a girlfriend now, he says.
He
So that's
also
cool.
says a lot, but I'll take it. I'll take his word for it. So getting into McGregor fighting Kamaru Usman, this all started when Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal are going to run it back, supposedly. Jorge Masvidal is more interested in that rematch than fighting for the title, which is very odd considering he had the title shot pretty much lined up. But for some reason, who knows? He's his own man. You know, I don't know much about his personal life, but he wants to rematch Nate. And I think that is a really good fight.
I'll
Might
tell you
not
why.
be the best idea, but why do you think?
Fat stacks, amigo. Jorge is trying to get that money, and the money fight is the Nate Diaz BMF rematch. It is not the Kamaru Usman welterweight title shot. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it be. Know what I'm
That's the
saying?
way the UFC is going. I
That's
suppose
the
you're
way
right.
it be.
I would think that the title shot would make more, but now that you mentioned it, it's
The Rock,
probably
The
yeah,
Rock doesn't
yeah,
show up
yeah.
for
You're right.
the Kamaru Usman fight. The Rock shows up for the BMF
Yeah,
fight.
we need The Rock.
West Coast versus East Coast gangsters.
Yes. Now it started with that. So now Jorge wants to fight Nate. Great. Who's going to fight for the title? So Ali, his manager, Kamaru Usman's manager, tweeted, "It looks like the number one contender wants to fight Nate Diaz now. Good for him. Conor McGregor, hey, you want a title shot? Come to daddy. Come to daddy. Usman will give you one, and he promises the first two rounds with no takedowns, only slaps." Wow, what a tweet.
Okay, here's the first thing we gotta say right off the bat. We're gonna speculate about whether or not this fight happens and talk about it and which way it goes and the merits of it and the everything around it. But there's one thing we have to get out of the way right off the bat. When Connor says Ali Abdelaziz is a rat and a snake, he's right. Okay, he's a snake. He's an absolute snake. And you can't believe a word that comes out of that guy's mouth. He is always talking some kind of shit. I don't believe a word he says. I don't trust him. I don't think it, I don't like the guy at all. But he's a very successful manager and he does have a lot of clout in the business. He manages a lot of different people and I think he's got a lot of sway over his fighters. So, getting his bullshit out of the way, now let's talk about whether or not this fight actually should it happen. Of course not. Of course it should not happen. But will it? What do you think?
Like you were saying, I think Ali does have a lot of sway, more than a lot of people would realize. So I do think that he could make this fight happen. And you know the UFC wants this fight to happen too, because Conor McGregor fighting for a title, that's what the UFC is all about. I mean, it's the money business, and that is where the money is. Conor McGregor fighting for titles. That's what people want to see. Now, how much say does he have? I don't know. Most people don't know. I don't even know if he knows. He's probably just
Connor, you
throwing this
mean?
out there.
How much say does
No,
Connor have?
Ali.
Oh, okay.
I think, will Connor want this fight? I think he will. He seems like the type of person. Of course, I haven't known him over the years, but you see what he does. He's always chasing those titles, very aggressive. He just wants to keep advancing himself and advancing himself. I think he will take this. He hasn't responded yet, though.
Here's the
It's
thing
been a
too
while. Yeah,
about
I don't know.
about Conor, and we saw this just the other day when he put up that thread about who the goats are, the MMA goats. He puts a lot of stock in people going for titles and claiming titles across multiple weight classes. He doesn't put as much like stock in people defending titles, which a lot of people do. Like Demetrius Johnson is considered by many to be the greatest of all time because of how long he defended the flyweight title. But then people like Conor, they look at someone like GSP and they say, hey, this guy did it at welterweight and middleweight. That is really impressive. That's what I want to do. So he's done it at featherweight. He's done it at lightweight. If he does it at welterweight, he is the first person in UFC history to claim titles across 3 different weight classes. We've had a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, we've had a number of people claim titles across 2 weight classes, and then we've had a few people claim titles across 2 weight classes simultaneously, Conor being the first one. Then you had DC, Amanda Nunes. I feel like there's one I'm forgetting, but I
I
can't
think
remember.
there is, but I also can't remember. I was
Oh,
thinking of those 3 as well.
Henry
Yeah,
Cejudo.
yeah.
Oops.
Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, and then people like GSP, Randy Couture, BJ Penn. They held titles across multiple weight classes, not simultaneously at different. They dropped one to go get the other. Now, of course, Conor will not have 3 titles at multiple weight classes simultaneously, but nonetheless, he would be the first person to claim 3 titles across 3 different weight classes. That would be nothing short of, that's history. That's Hall of Fame. That's legend status. Is it GOAT status? I don't know. There's so many different criteria people put into that argument. Who does that make him the greatest of all time? I personally don't think so. Some people would say yes. I'm sure he would certainly say yes. But regardless, it puts you at just absolute legend status. Not that he's already not there. He is absolutely a legend and will be forever remembered in this sport. But he has expressed multiple times how much he wants to claim a title in that 3rd weight class. So would he be down for it? I don't know. I think yeah, because yes, it would be very profitable for him, but does he give a shit about that anymore? Of course, he's not just going to take any fight because there's so much risk involved. There's legacy involved. So he wants a fat paycheck, of course, and he deserves a fat paycheck. But does he need a fat paycheck at this point? Of course not. For him, it's about competition. It's about legacy, I think, at this point. Like, why else would you take the Donald Cerrone fight, even though he completely ran over Cowboy? Why would you take that fight unless you cared a lot about cementing yourself as one of the greatest of all time? That's what he cares about now. And this would be a great just mark on that record. Whether or not it should happen, that is a whole other story.
That's the tough question. I think it will happen though, and I like what you were saying about legacy. He's definitely the legacy guy, and this is where the legacy is. A part of me hopes that it does happen, just because of entertainment. That would be a fun fight, especially if he doesn't throw any takedowns in the first 2 rounds, like Ali said in the tweet. That'll
No,
be
that's bullshit.
that's the
total
question
bullshit.
right there. Assuming he would do that, which he probably won't.
No,
That would make the fight go considerably different.
No way.
No
Kamaru
way,
Usman
no
is a
way.
competitor. He's a fighter through and through. He will do what it takes to win.
Yeah, he talks a lot, but he also I think he's an intelligent guy. He knows Conor's dangerous. Might not be as dangerous as he was at featherweight or lightweight. I don't think his power translates too well to 170, but he still has power, and he is a deadly striker.
What about
And
that
Kamaru knows
cardio? What about that
that.
cardio?
That's the
Oh
problem.
boy.
That's his,
Especially with a wrestler, or a leg hugger, as he likes to call him, crotch sniffer, or whoever. Who says that? Who says crotch sniffer? Is that Connor? Connor
it,
referred to
it
referred
sounds
to
like something
Khabib
Conor would
as
say.
a crotch sniffer.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Colby. I don't fucking know. But regardless, uh, he doesn't do too well with those wrestlers that just grind on you. I mean, and hey, Kamaru Usman has proved he could stand and bang with you. He did that with Colby Covington. But you look at the Tyron Woodley fight. Oh boy, could you imagine Conor in that situation? It would not be pretty. It would not be pretty for him. That is a big, strong man, a big, strong Nigerian nightmare. And he is going to fight you I shouldn't say the same way, but very similar to how Khabib fought you. And we all know how that went. So it is an extremely dangerous fight for him. But he puts a lot of stock into taking risk. He's a risk taker, 100%. That's who Conor McGregor is. That's why he is so influential in this game, right? Because he doesn't take safe fights. He doesn't care about playing it safe. That's not to say he fights stupidly or he fights, without regard for safety or, without any kind of tactical fight IQ. But he takes those fights that are really dangerous for him. Sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. The Nate Diaz fight, for example, one time it panned out, one time it didn't. Khabib fight didn't pan out. And then, the Jose fight, probably the greatest, I mean, a huge risk. Jose, by many, considered the greatest featherweight of all time. Massive risk you take by fighting a guy like that. And then he got the most remarkable knockout of his career, probably the knockout that sent him into stardom. So yeah, this Kamaru Usman fight it's super dangerous for him. Now, as far as whether or not it should happen, oh man, I really don't think so. Right now, Conor McGregor sits at number 14 in the welterweight rankings. Now, of course, the rankings tend to be a little all over the place. I mean, Tyron Woodley is still number one contender. But if you're talking just about rankings, well, then Tyron Woodley should be getting the next title shot, right? That's not going to happen. He's got a fight lined up with Gilbert Burns this coming weekend. So I don't know. What do you think about the rankings and how all that works and whether or not Conor deserves this title shot?
Well, Conor only has 2 fights at lightweight, or I'm sorry, welterweight. Am I correct in saying that? Nate Diaz once, and then Cowboy Cerrone.
No, Nate Diaz twice.
I thought he fought Nate at the second time at lightweight, or maybe I'm wrong in that. That's a tough detail to remember precisely.
Hang on.
Okay, let's assume he has 3 fights then. Are you gonna check?
I'm looking it up right now because we need to know this for sure. I also think wasn't Cowboy at lightweight?
Oh, I thought it was at welterweight. That's another important
Of
detail.
course, it doesn't say. Okay, yeah, you're right. Welterweight for the Cowboy fight.
Okay, so he definitely has 1 or 2 fights at welterweight, but I don't know about that 3rd fight with Nate.
Second fight with Nate, you mean?
Or yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, the 2nd fight with Nate.
Okay. UFC 202, Diaz versus McGregor 2. That was at welterweight.
Okay. So he has 3 fights at welterweight.
Okay.
One of those being a loss, and the second one being extremely close, and the third one, obviously, he dominated Cowboy Cerrone, and that's no easy feat. Cowboy has been around since the dawn of time. He's a veteran. He's fought everybody. I still don't think that merits a title shot at all. I think the rankings, even at number 14, I mean, you don't see number 14s going for title shots. You know what I mean?
You have Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal. Now, a few of those names I just mentioned are already tied up in other affairs. Leon Edwards, Stephen Thompson, Gilbert Burns, got that fight coming up. Damian Maia, Michael Chiesa, RDA, Nate Diaz, Jeff Neal, Robbie Lawler, Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque, that's a guy that's fighting. He's above Conor on the rankings, and that's a guy that's not even in main events yet. You know,
It's
like
crazy to think about. Yeah,
there's
the
there's
difference here.
there's a problem there. Now, of course, we are speculating about this for fun and just, a what if scenario. There has been no indication really that this fight is actually going to happen. It's just been Ali, and Ali just talks a lot of nonsense. I think he just talks a lot of shit all the time. So all of this has to be taken with a grain of salt. But we have seen people get title shots that they don't really. I mean, did Dominic Cruz deserve a title shot after almost 4 years of being out of the bantamweight picture?
Probably not.
Probably
As his
not.
biggest and only fan, I'm still going to say probably not.
I mean, when you have guys like Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling, and okay, Marlon Moraes got the title shot and he didn't win. Corey Sandhagen, even Jose Aldo, at number 6 at bantamweight right now. I mean, though, that's a hefty margin, right? That's a big leap to Dominic Cruz sitting at number 11. Or at least he's sitting at number 11 now. I don't know where he was prior to the fight. He was unranked. That's right. He was unranked prior to the wow. That's absolute insanity, right? If you need any further proof that the UFC rankings are just absolute garbage, look no further than that. And I love Dominic Cruz. He's a legend in the sport, and a legendary bantamweight specifically, one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. But he got that fight simply on name value. That's it. And if Conor was to get this welterweight fight, obviously it'd just be for based off name value, and because Conor is such a huge asset to the sport of MMA, and every time he performs, it is just it's a massive spectacle. It's a cultural phenomenon every time Conor McGregor fights, whether that's in MMA, whether that's in boxing. Every time Conor McGregor fights, the entire world watches, and that counts much more than any UFC ranking. Whether or not that is a good thing, I don't know. Who am I to say? I love Conor, and I love that he is always such an X factor. I think it makes the sport so much fun. But if you're speaking strictly from a competitive standpoint and from the value and the merits of these rankings, of course he does not deserve to be in this welterweight title picture right now. Of course he doesn't. That's a given. But will he be? Who the hell knows?
Very well said, though. I like that, yeah. Kamaru Usman tweeted 3 hours ago, "I really don't understand why you all want this man dead," all caps. "I'd shag him in there if I wanted, and he'd do nothing, FOH. That, okay. And he posted a Photoshop picture of him and Conor in the ring with Herb Dean with one leg. Okay.
Why does Herb Dean only have one leg?
That's what it looks like from here, but oh no, never mind. It's just blending in really well. He's wearing like camouflage on his left leg or something.
Oh man.
So it seems like Kamaru is escalating it a little bit, but who knows? It's just
well, hey, that's a smart move for if you're Kamaru Usman. Hey, if you are Kamaru Usman, you do everything you can to make this fight happen. Not because it's the right thing to do from like maybe ethics is too strong of a word, but from what is right for UFC title contention. You don't do it for that reason. You do it, one, because money, obviously, of course. 2, popularity and just recognition, the recognition you deserve. Someone like Kamaru Usman deserves to be more recognized, right? He's such a brilliant fighter, and he really seems to be dominating welterweight. I think he's going to be a champion at welterweight for a very meaningful period of time. So he absolutely 100% deserves to be more widely recognized by the casual audience. The same way now Khabib is more widely recognized because he fought Conor, right? Like that was one of the greatest things that came out of that fight, for better or for worse, because you had the whole controversy and the scene afterwards. But Khabib is a star now because of that fight. He's 100% a star. He was always widely recognized by the hardcore audience because of how dominant he was. But the fact of the matter is, Khabib doesn't necessarily, like Kamaru Usman, doesn't necessarily have a fighting style that translates well with the casual audience. The casual audience prefers people like Justin Gaethje. They prefer people like Francis Ngannou, people that are just brawlers and get devastating knockouts and maybe have, really like wild personalities like someone like Conor or Tony Ferguson. Khabib and Kamaru a little more subdued, a little more, they're not fan favorites by any means, and they fight that, that 5-round wrestling heavy grind on you, wear you down style that doesn't necessarily appeal to the just bleed fan base, right? But he should take this fight because of that, because of for popularity reasons. He should take it because of money reasons, and dare I say, he should take it because I don't think it's a super challenging fight for him. I really don't. Conor's striking is unbelievable, and of course he's going to have to watch out for that. But oh man, if he could wrestle with Conor, I think Kamaru Usman takes this fight easily. I think it's a much easier fight for him than most of the other contenders at welterweight. I think it's a much easier fight than Jorge Masvidal and Leon Edwards. I really do believe that.
I agree.
I mean, I hate to say it because I love Conor so much, and he is one of the greatest to ever do it. But oh man,
it's just a bad matchup.
I think Usman would have his way with him.
And really Conor's ace in the hole, his mental warfare. That's probably not going to do anything, considering Kamaru Usman's response to Colby Covington's verbal TKOs that he was trying to land on him their entire fight buildup. Kamaru Usman didn't care at all.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it backfires. It worked with Jose Aldo. It really did.
It destroyed Jose.
He destroyed Jose before that fight even started. Khabib, if anything, Khabib went harder. Khabib went way harder and really wanted to hurt the guy because of that. And I think Usman is kind of the same way, right? Colby Covington pissed him off, and he stood there and he fought him. He stood and banged with him, and he broke his goddamn jaw, right?
Yeah,
so,
Conor doesn't have many solutions here to this matchup, whereas Kamaru Usman, he can do whatever he wants. He dictates where the fight goes. He could dictate how the fight ends. I think he can. I don't know if he could match his striking. I definitely think he could defend against his striking and wear him out with the grappling and the wrestling and the clinching. I mean, Conor McGregor, his cardio is it's pretty bad. He doesn't even need to wrestle. He could just clinch with him like he did with Tyron Woodley and just wear him out completely. There's just so many avenues of victory here for Mr. Usman that I just can't see Conor winning. Now, can he? Of course, it's MMA. Anything could happen. But, I mean, let's just look at the facts here. It's not a good fight for Conor, and it's a really good fight for Kamaru.
Everyone loved to talk about, prior to the Khabib fight, how Conor striking versus Khabib striking was going to be such a significant factor because, Khabib doesn't have striking, apparently. He can't strike. He did in that fight. Kamaru Usman is a much better striker than Khabib. I mean, Kamaru Usman's striking is no joke at all. We saw that in the Colby Covington fight. It is no joke. He hits hard. He strikes accurately. Yeah, I mean, Conor will have a really tough time. He will have a really tough time in that fight. I truly believe that. Now, of course, anything could happen. Like you said, who the hell expected him to go out there against Cowboy Cerrone and shoulder his face in?
Yeah, unpredictable. No one.
Yeah. Now, I as much as I love Cowboy, I did think Conor was going to win that fight, and Cowboy is just not the challenge that Kamaru Usman is. But who expected it to go like that, right? Of course, like who expected shoulder strikes to be the deciding factor?
I think Conor did.
Yeah, yeah.
Mystic
Maybe
Mac, he knew.
maybe he did. Maybe he sees these things. You
He
know,
does. He does.
I predict these things. Yeah. I guess he
Ooh, this
probably
just
did.
this just in. Connor predicts he will out wrestle Kamaru Usman 5 rounds in a row. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
oh my
I
God! I thought you
I
were
would
being
I'd love to
serious.
dream. No,
I thought you were being
he's not.
serious.
He's not that mystic. You know, he's got very good takedown defense, but I don't think it's the takedowns necessarily. It's just the wearing out, the
Yeah,
constant grind and the constant destruction of one's cardio.
I think his takedown defense will fade. You know,
Yes,
the
significantly.
same way it did in the Khabib fight.
This is 5 rounds too.
It'll look nice at first, and then it will just volume will the volume will overwhelm.
But let's be clear, on these uncertain times with these strange title bouts, there is something good coming out of it, and it's Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal too. That is the
Oh,
fight. I know Jorge deserves a title shot, but he deserves that payday, and he deserves that fight and that rematch. Oh, that's a good one, and
it's a
especially
great
because
one.
the controversy regarding how it stopped and how the doctor shouldn't have stopped it, or maybe he should have, and what happens if this was 5 rounds, if we had 2 more rounds. Nate's got the better cardio, but there's just so many questions that we didn't really get to have answered, and I think that me and the fans included, and frankly everybody, just wants to see this rematch. That is the fight to make. So I like the direction that Jorge is going and the direction that Nate's going, but then again, who knows what's going to happen. You know what I mean? This is such
Yeah,
I wish I had
I
definite answers, but
I
I
mean,
don't.
I would love to see that again, right?
Yeah,
Now, granted, I think the same thing will happen. I think not necessarily that the doctor will stop it, but Nate's going to get cut up bad again. Because I don't. One, Jorge Masvidal is just a violent man, and two, Nate's face it gets cut. You know,
crumbles.
the dude's been fighting forever, and he has taken some beatings, and he's been cut many times. He's gonna bleed bad. I think in just about every fight he has for forever now. Like it's just gonna happen, right? Um, I also I think we're gonna see the same result with Jorge Masvidal winning again because while that fight was so entertaining and so fun to watch, I thought Jorge was just dominating. I thought he put on such a dominant performance, and I think I don't think people recognized it enough because of the controversy that overshadowed that fight with the doctor, even though probably wasn't necessary. Like it definitely wasn't necessary. Like that controversy, the fight, it was probably a pretty good stoppage for the most part. Um, but I do think Jorge comes out on top again. I don't think Nate showed anything in that first fight that led me to believe he was gonna win if the doctor didn't stop it. I really don't think that. Now, will he make adjustments in the sequel? Of course he will, and it'll be so interesting to see what goes down. It's gonna be a great fight. Always is with those two. They're two of the most entertaining men in the sport.
Here's the thing, though. What you didn't know is that Nate Diaz, his foot was a balloon on that first fight. He couldn't fight right. You
That's
know,
true.
that's just
His foot was a balloon, and
it's a shame.
he saw stiffness.
And
Really,
he did clearly felt he felt a tap. Let's just get that out of
clearly
the way.
felt a tap.
Clearly.
I mean, Jorge was tapping him quite a bit. The only difference was he wasn't tapping him to say I'm done. He was clobbering him in the face with fists and
100%, yes.
elbows.
I think you make a fair assessment of the fight. I think Masvidal just looked too dominant in there. And would Nate Diaz, probably win the last 2 rounds of a 5 round fight? Probably. But Masvidal, he just looks unstoppable. You said it very well. He was just violent. He was going for like the blood. He was relentless, just forward pressure, and he was almost beating Nate at his own game in terms of volume. And I was so impressed with him. I'm a huge fanboy, don't get me wrong, but that's the fight to make.
Nate does like the deep waters. He likes going those championship rounds. tends to be where he performs really well.
I love the fact that he's a star now. Oh, he's so.
No, he's not. He's not a needle mover. Remember?
Oh, of course not. Dana
Remember?
White is always right. Yeah,
No,
that's the unified rule of MMA.
he admitted, Dana White, that he was wrong about that, and that Nate Diaz is a star and a quote unquote needle mover. That he has since gone back on that statement, which is good because he absolutely is. Nate Diaz is one of the biggest stars in the sport. Another Conor competitor right there. It looks like those guys that fought Conor, good things happen to them afterwards, right?
I would agree. Jorge Masvidal too. He is also a huge star. Where did that come from? The Ben Askren?
Ben Askren.
Victory? Yeah.
Absolutely, the Ben Askren. Well, it started with the Darren Till defeat because he knocked out Darren Till in such devastating fashion. And I believe that was in London, wasn't it?
It was.
In the UK.
Yeah.
It started with that. And then the Askren flying knee that was seen around the world just
that hurt me.
Propelled him. Yeah, it hurt me too. I remember we watched that together. We were both very shocked and appalled. But hey, it was one of the most iconic moments in UFC, probably in MMA history, to be honest. It was amazing.
It happens.
It happens.
They both made $500,000 for that. Wow. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money for how many seconds? Like 5?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was talking about Nate Diaz and Masvidal. I might say Ben Askren and them made similar figures to that because Ben Askren was a star leading into his Robbie Lawler controversy. Yeah.
Well, Ben Askren was a star outside of the UFC. You know, he was an Olympic wrestler. He was a champion in what organization was it? I forget what it was called. The other
championship.
One, yeah. I think that's right because they traded him with DJ.
Yes,
right?
They did. Yeah. He's doing. I think he just won a title over there too.
DJ.
Yeah, so he's doing well.
Good for him.
That's tough competition though. I should start watching that more. If only it was still on.
Yeah. The whole world is ended.
They shut down. Who would have guessed that would happen? You know.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to get into before we wrap this boy up?
I mean, we could talk about the bantamweight titles, but again, that's just all going to be speculation.
Yeah. You know? Hey, that's what we do here.
Yeah.
We do great speculation.
Henry Cejudo has completely given up. All right, I should say given up. Okay.
Okay, Stephen A. Smith, calm down.
You learned nothing about Henry
with your quitter talk.
Okay.
Yeah, we learned nothing.
Henry Cejudo, he retired officially, never coming back. Who knows? But he vacated both of his titles, and now everything's left in the wind. So Conor McGregor was going to come down to flyweight and start trying to snatch them up. You never know. It's going to look like TJ Dillashaw trying to make that weight.
We're going to see a Joe Benavidez and Davison Figueiredo rematch for the flyweight title. Hey, maybe Davison Figueiredo will make weight this time for his title fight. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
And if he doesn't,
wouldn't that be cool?
Benavidez he's gonna have his title. There you go. Finally.
Just give Benavidez the flyweight title, please. I want him to have it so
Davidson,
bad.
just give it to him, all right? Don't make weight. Come on.
Yeah, I don't like Davison Figueiredo at all.
You don't like him?
I do not like him. After he just, doomed flyweight by not making weight, yes. And then he went on to win the fight via headbutt, and then was, very celebratory afterwards. And it's like, hey, you didn't get the title. You didn't. You're not a champion. Friendo.
Stop. Davidson Figueiredo was never my friend,
Never my friend. That's fucking illegal.
It really is.
That's my favorite Dana White quote of all time.
They should have just given it to Benavidez. I know that wouldn't make much sense, but he did miss weight and win in an odd way.
I just want Benavidez to get it so bad.
He's been
hey, I know the guy's married to Megan O'Leary, and he probably has enough good things in his life right now, but just give him a fucking flyweight title.
He needs it.
We
need it. We need him to have it,
He does, because that division, oh boy.
The little guys, not much love for them there.
There ain't a lot going on there, is it?
It's gonna be fun to see what happens though, because there's a lot of ways that the UFC could spin this, and it's gonna be fun to see where it goes. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, fun is one way to put it.
it's going to be anxiety-inducing. Maybe Ben Askren will cut down the flyweight with all that extra poundage he's got going on there.
He shaves his head and he could become a flyweight.
He wouldn't be able to compete if he shaved his head.
The funky fro.
That's what it's more of a distraction to the other fighters than like actual hair, you know. That's just.
Have you seen the way that fro used to look? Like back in his Olympic days. He was in the Olympics, right? Am I right about that? Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was a wild mane he had going on. I miss Ben Askren.
I wish he had a more successful run, but that's just how these things go, I suppose.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I predict these things.
Mystic Askren went out there and he died for our sins. He's a good man.
Oh, man.
Looks like a Greek statue.
He does.
Such a shame. Well, with
Greek
that,
tragic hero.
The Greek tragic hero story, I think we'll wrap it up for today. You are listening to Caffeinated Combat with your hosts, Matt and Kyle. We'll be back maybe for another impromptu podcast or May 30th after that card. So thank you for watching, everyone. I'll see you. You didn't say adios.
Adios.